buttons clicked. Data being sent. All right. Looks like we are streaming on Twitch, and now we are streaming on YouTube. All right. Here we are.
All right.
Bro, dude. Okay. So, I've been a pseudo member of Suspect for God, how many years now? You know, it's so funny. I was thinking today, I joined this community in 2021. And because of Fane, I was able to meet Redbeard. Because of Redbeard, I was able to meet the boys at Suspect. And it's been 4 years. 4 years, dude. Like, isn't that kind of wild that I've known you guys for like 4 years?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm getting some background noise. Give me a sec. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You good?
Yeah, give me a sec.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why my
something was coming through.
Yeah.
Gotta turn off those adult websites,
All right,
dude.
I'm good. Yeah. No, my wife and I were watching Critical Role last night, and it just
nice.
decided to start up already, so on its own.
No, I mean it just I guess I was looking back and I'm like, oh my god, because I was looking at like when we first talked in the 1v1, and then we did the Suspect Guild 1v1, and then here we are talking again, and I was thinking to myself,
oh yeah, I'm not sick this time.
I know.
Shocker,
dude,
right?
Isn't that kind of weird? Like, you're usually like 90% of the time sick. Like, it's crazy. Hallelujah, dude. Jesus.
Yeah, no kidding. It's kind of a miracle considering there's 3 separate schools of germs coming my way every day. So
well, dude, I'm really glad that you were able to come on and have a chat and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course, man.
There's a lot of stuff happening within the community. And I hop in a lot. We talk Ashes, you, myself, Grump, Basin, Crip, the whole gang, Redbeard. And there's
the boys.
Yeah, the boys. And, and as of recently for phase 2, I mean, even for phase 1, I guess it's because I'm kind of curious on how I should start this, because we have talked a lot. I always go in there, we start talking about feedback, or I start picking y'all's brains about stuff. And, I just want to hear like first impressions, phase 1. We'll go into phase 1 first. And, actually, before we even do all of that, because it's like so funny because we talk all the time. Do you want to introduce yourself to the people that may not even know who you are, or like what your guild is about, or just stuff in general first? So let's open up there, Vlad.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, I guess. Some stuff might have changed, but yeah, I'm Psycho-Phobic. I am the guild lead for Suspect. We are a mercenary guild. We kind of got our start in New World. We didn't even plan on doing mercenary type stuff. It just kind of fell in our lap because we were doing pretty successful sieges, and people eventually just started paying us to join their siege rosters and siege for them. We even changed factions a few times because people were paying us to. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, and we're just kind of, we had played, some of us had done mercenary work in like past games, sandbox games like EVE Online and, Ultima and Mortal and stuff like that. And in those games, it's a lot easier, and it makes more sense to do mercenary stuff in a sandbox game versus a theme park game like New World. It didn't really feel like it was going to work out, but somehow we made it work. And the systems that Ashes is put in place really seems like it's going to allow that type of gameplay to blossom.
Yeah.
So
no, 100%. I mean, I think this is why, like, I mentioned in the title, like, guild reputation, because I talked to Tim from Polar recently, and we talked about reputation with them as far as like how their guild's going to go, and being a mercenary guild. I don't want to get too much into that topic yet, because it's like we're way too soon, but that's why I want to talk to you specific about guild reputation and how that's going to face your guild amongst the server, about hopefully being this kind of chaotic neutral. You know what I mean? Like if we want to talk D&D terms, right? Because chaotic in the sense that you're well, neutral in the sense that you don't have allegiance to anybody, but chaotic because you don't know, am I the target? Is that person like, are you friendly, not friendly? Like you just don't know, right?
Yeah, the whole guild reputation thing is kind of a hot topic, because in a lot of games, like, because I know you've played lots of WoW in the past, and especially once, like, I think after Wrath of the Lich King or something, when they started doing like group finder and stuff like that, and like cross server gameplay, and it kind of killed the vibe. and it allowed for people to just be assholes all the time, because they, you know, the odds of them getting in the same group with you again the next time was slim to none, so they could act however they wanted, and there was no accountability for your actions, and it kind of just soured the whole environment of the game. It was kind of disappointing. But in sandbox games, that's not like that at all. It's quite the opposite, and it's reputation stays with you over multiple years, over multiple games, even, right, if people know who you are. So it's pretty important. It's a big deal.
And I think it's also very critical that even though we are testing, right, I think reputation is still going to follow suit into live with the stuff that people are doing currently, even in a test, because again, you're still a lot of people are very emotionally invested in Ashes of Creation, right? In this test, I mean, we've waited, bro. How many times, dude? And when I entered my Darth Vladis phase, when I was saying to everybody, dude, 2023, or was it 2022 that I was saying, I think it was in 2022 going into 23. I was like, March of 2023. That's when the Alpha 2 is coming. That's when the Alpha 2 is coming, dude. Like we were all like super wrong. And there were so many times, my ups and downs going into this. I think people are very much emotionally invested in this game. And this is why I like talking about reputation, because I think some of these guilds are too theme park mindseted, that they really don't think that the reputation is going to matter, that this is all just going to fade away. It's just a test. We go into live, it's going to be a different story. I kind of don't think so. So I'm really curious from you, from like a GM's perspective, like, well, fuck it, let's just talk about it now, and then we'll go into phase one and your thoughts on that. Like how important is reputation to you?
It's paramount. And I think that even in our own guild, I think a lot of other guilds may not even be on their mind right now. But even in our own guild, I'm always trying to remind our members that we're playing the long game, right? And even though, you know, whatever people do in the test right now, it's really easy to think, oh, it's just a test, you know, it's an alpha, none of this matters, it's going to get wiped anyway before launch. While that's true, in terms of reputation, though, even if you're doing stuff that isn't going to matter before it wipes before launch, people are going to remember what you do and how you act. So it's kind of hard to describe to people who haven't been in that environment before or are not used to it, that it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you can act like an asshole, and it doesn't really matter because they're going to wipe everything anyway, and there's no persistence there. But at the same time, you're still going to retain your reputation's not going to get wiped, even if the game content does from the test. So I think some guilds aren't really thinking ahead on that kind of point, and they're, I think now that we're in phase 2, some guilds are starting to catch on to that. Right. And there's definitely guilds even from way back in Alpha 1 that have, and even before that, that have retained a reputation that's not so great, and they're kind of on everyone's shit list right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, and this is why I think, you know, I believe in redemption. I believe like, hey, look, you were a shitter, whatever. It's going to take you a bit, right? of consistent behavior, right? The repeated behavior of just decency to
you can definitely bounce back from a bad reputation, but it takes a very long time for that to happen.
No, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. It takes that repeated decent behavior. You know, the GGs, you know, whatever you want to do, right? Your word is paramount too. Like there's a lot of things that if you say something and you try to spokesman yourself through it, but then you're doing a different action in the game, then your word doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? Like your word is completely meaningless. And Ashes is a game about actions, right? Like, I mean, words, absolutely. We hope that, you know, the thing that you're saying, I hope I can trust you in that, but your actions are going to speak, you know, in this game. And I think this is why I think reputation is going to hold so much weight in this test, because once we go to live, shit's really going to matter. So like how you were in this test is going to be even like 2x, 3x the amount of, you know, emotionality that's going to go into this. Cause now these are our actual characters, right? This isn't something that's going to be deleted or go away. So I find reputation to be something that I'm seeing a lot of guilds just kind of throw away, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. A lot of them are shooting themselves in the foot right now. It's kind of sad to see, but I mean, like I said, I think the majority of gamers and like younger generations, they have no, and I don't want this to sound bad because I'm not trying to like throw anyone under the bus, but I just think probably the best word to use is ignorance, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just lack of knowledge on how a true alpha test works. And I think a lot of, you know, the short-sighted thinking is that what I do doesn't matter, so I can just gank these people left and right and whatever. And they're not really thinking ahead and thinking like, oh, you know, if I use this character name at launch, people are going to remember who I am, or this guild name or whatever. Yeah. So
I think that's or I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say like that kind of leans into like where we're at as a mercenary guild too, is that I've been kind of pumping the brakes on standing up official contracts, mercenary contracts, because the game is in a constant state of flux right now, because there's a lot of stuff that's placeholder, there's a lot of stuff that's not meant to be intended gameplay, and it's hard to say, oh yeah, we'll do mercenary contracts and then have like a caravan just disappear into thin air, or you know, some other game critical bug that prevents us from completing that contract. That whether or not we had the best intentions, if we're putting up contracts and we're not completing them, even if it's completely out of our control, that still looks bad. Mm-hmm. And you know, people remember, okay, yeah, I did this contract and I paid for it and the game bugged, and you know, at that point it's like, okay, well, are they going to ask for a refund or something just because their caravan bugged out? I mean, it's not their fault, but we also spent our time trying to escort, you know, so it kind of gets real muddy, and it's a lot simpler to just make sure that our reputation is going to be intact, and if we are accepting contracts, that it's in the game's in a state that is stable enough for us to be confident that we can complete that. So
yeah, and I think also just a lot of the systems aren't fleshed out. They're very work in progress. I mean, Stephen always was saying that, but just they're at a very basic level, and there's a lot of holes in many systems, right? We talk about the caravan system being one of them, with clerics being outside of the caravan party completely, just healing people left and right. And that's sort of like a meta that's been forming with people wanting to run caravans. It's like, if you're not doing that, right, it's shit behavior, right? We all agree it's shit behavior, but if I'm going to be that good dude that isn't going to do that gameplay, then I'm going to be trounced by people that are, right? So I'm at a huge disadvantage, especially if I'm, hauling my guild's glint or my hard-earned glint that I trying to get so I can get some money out of it. Like, I get it. Like, I get it from the hardcore standpoint. but I also get like it's just a shit system, and I hope that Intrepid can fix that like as soon as possible. And honestly, when you talked about being ignorant, like, dude, how many times were you saying, Vlad, I think you just don't understand Sandbox, because my brain is so wow brained, and there'd be so many times where like, Vlad, I don't think you get it, man. Like I don't, and you'd always say, I don't blame you for not getting it because you don't play Sandbox games, but you would always tell me, you know what I mean? Like, and I think there are a lot of people that are very theme park oriented when it comes to MMOs, that they don't really understand these systems that are going to cascade into the future. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, you're a product of your environment, right? I mean, you can only have perspective on what you've experienced. So I mean, you can't blame people for not knowing.
Yeah, I think that's very true, but trying to educate yourself about it, or also just trying to not wash everybody out, like to do the whole finger in your ears, la 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 la, like what I'm doing's right, like isn't going to help your cause either, right? You can only plead ignorance for so long until it catches up with you. And I think in certain ways, certain guilds, it is, if it's not catching up to them now, it will later. And I think, we all agree right now there isn't many servers for us to hop into, but once we actually get into the live game, I know there's many people that's like, if that guild's on that server, we're not going to be on that server, we're going to be on this server, or like, if those people are over there, we're going to be over here, or whatever. And it's kind of funny.
What's interesting about that is that you can say that all day, and I mean, you can successfully do that, but the reality is that the next server that you end up on is going to have another guild exactly like that one you're trying to avoid. So
it's like a clone copy. It's like, hey, I got rid of World of Warcraft, and then here comes Enter Tarislan, right? It's like the same exact thing, just a different skin. So let's get into phase 1, because I think the vibe in phase 1 in Vera was actually really fucking cool. I enjoyed it. Just to kind of, I just want to know your overall thoughts on like Alpha 2 when it comes from a guild standpoint. How are you enjoying the testing? How is Suspect being organized? Because you managed to actually nab one of the mayorships. Our girl Sheeta was actually mayor of Halcyon in phase 1. So just to kind of get your feedback on how that experience was and taking care of a node, just general feedback as well, just to hear your thoughts.
Phase 1 was like as broken as phase 1 was, a lot of growing pains, which is to be expected, but it was a big learning experience, especially for nodes and mayorship, because I think even when it comes to like nodes and mayors trying to like work together, you could have the best intentions and things don't always work out the way you plan them to go. So
very true.
And I mean it was great at first, and what we found out really quick, and I think everybody kind of found out and got a reality check, is that when they first got mayor, we had no understanding of how in depth it was going to be, and how much of like, okay, just kind of an example of like, okay, there's those players that play a game and all they do is play the market in the game.
Right.
I kind of liken it to that with mayors and nodes. It's like, if you want to be a mayor, you better want to be a mayor, because that's gonna be all you're doing research. And if you're I kind of laugh about the military nodes, actually. I'm really curious how that's gonna go, because all the sweaty PvPers that don't want to deal with all the spreadsheeting and research and all that stuff, whatever PvPer gets the military node, I'm wondering if that node's just gonna rot and die because they aren't doing any infrastructure with it, because they don't want to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. Like it's actual work to be a mayor, and the unfortunate part, very much. I feel like the game, we'll have to see what Intrepid does with it, because at the moment it feels like citizens need more incentive to contribute to the mayor commissions and whatnot, because at the moment, and it was like this in phase 1 too, where if a guild that owned a node, it was pretty much just that guild making that node infrastructure happen. And what was frustrating about it was that we would spend all of our resources and pool our resources to make the node infrastructure, but there was nothing left for
y'all
us to progress the guild. So, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to kind of be selfish in phase 2 and be like, we don't want anything to do with mayorship, because we want to focus on us, because we felt behind in phase 1 because of it, because no one, I shouldn't say no one, because we did have help from citizens to build Halcyon in phase 1, but it was mostly us, because there's just not enough incentive. So hopefully Intrepid figures that out and dials some things in. So
yeah, I mean, and that's what I've always suspected too, is that people like to think that it's individuals being mayor, but it's really groups, like a guild. Like it's every person. It's like, oh, Axiom has this part, Polar has this part, this guild has this part, right? They don't really say the individual names. It's because they know it's almost like the guild is in control of this mayorship at the same time. And I'm really curious of if that's something that Intrepid wants, because at the end of the day, like if you're in a guild, right, there's always gonna be the incentive to kind of first do what the guild is wanting. But this, in the same sentence though, mayorship is for the entirety, right? Like it's also for looking at what the server needs, what the biome needs. And I think there's a lot of people that are going in and putting their guild first and not the server, which is really frustrating. And that's
what I was referring to. In the start, everyone has great intentions, but eventually that devolves into, well, this is what our guild wants, and screw the rest of the nodes, Right. And it was, especially in like phase 1 and even now, there's not enough nodes to go around to cover all of the crafting that needs to get done. So without high coordination, a high level of coordination, you're not going to get access to everything. So, and I think that's kind of by design, that, if you don't get what you want, then that's incentive to siege that node, right? To put up what you do want. But at the same time, it's amplified right now because there's not enough nodes to really spread out and do that.
And going into phase 2, we're getting this pretty big update. I mean, we saw the patch notes. It's freaking massive. The desert truly is coming alive with this update. Like how are you like personally looking forward to the desert update? Because we're going to have 3 nodes. I'm pretty sure once the desert is more fleshed out, I think it'll end up having 5 nodes, just like Riverlands. So that'll be a lot more opportunity there, a lot more mayorship opportunity there. Also the economic, hopefully that'll come online soon. I don't think it's going to come online with this particular update, but maybe in the end of February or maybe in the end of March. Like how are you mean? Yeah, well, because right now we're just doing scientific, right, which is just elections.
Right.
But we'll go into the silent auctions once economic nodes start coming online. But just your overall like feel for like phase 2 and for this future update coming up.
I mean, I'm excited for more content and more systems to test. I'm not necessarily excited for desert because I grew up in the desert. Oh. I don't really want to see more desert, but
yeah.
I mean, Intrepid's doing a great job of making it not, they're still making it pretty for being a desert. So I appreciate that. And then you don't really see that often in games. So, yeah, I'm excited for the expansion. It is very much out of the way to go down to the desert, I feel like. But
I feel like every biome's going to be like that in a sense. Every biome's going to feel like it's out of the way. Like, I just want to live here.
Until we get naval. I can't wait for naval, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm always excited for more content and more systems to test. and I can't wait for Rogue. I want Rogue so bad.
Doesn't everybody? I feel like I just want the Rogue to come out so people can just like be quiet about it, because I don't feel like, I guess it's not saying I'm being a pessimist about it, but I just think the Rogue is going to have a lot of the same melee issues that Fighter has, and then people are going to complain about that and stuff like that. So we'll see. I mean, I hope Rogue doesn't, and if it doesn't, then they're really going to do something to Fighter, man, because that's going to feel really bad for the fighters.
Yeah, I know that there was some new information about Rogue that came out today, and I didn't have time to look at it. I was hoping that I'd have time to look at it before we got on here so we could talk about it, but I totally missed it all. But at the same time, like I'm not really sure what to expect from Rogue. I feel like that there's going to be a lot of different types of play styles you can do with it. Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider augments eventually. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that goes for every class, honestly, but yeah, I was kind of hoping that you could almost play Rogue as like a hit and run and use, well, for me personally, I was hoping that I could use like bow as leverage on the Rogue and do like a true like guerrilla warfare, like hit and run ambusher style instead of staying in melee. Because I think if you stay in melee, you're dead. I don't think that you can sustain 100%. if you stay in melee. You got to dip out and choose your timing, I think.
Yeah, I think Rogue's going to be in a very interesting place, because it definitely can't have the utility that World of Warcraft Rogues have. In a game like Ashes, it would make it the most OP class. Really.
I'm so sick of the whole combo system that every game does for Rogues. I'm so tired of it, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
please give me something fresh.
It looks like they're going to go with an advantage, or I think advantage is the resource or the combat resource that Rogues are have.
Yeah, whatever the stealth resource is. Yeah. The longer you're in stealth, the more you gain the advantage or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious to try it out, but I'm actually looking forward to Summoner more. I'm really excited to see what Necromancer can possibly transform into, and just see what a base Summoner even does. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's going to be really pretty interesting. But as far as like systems go for like phase 2, like what systems have you been really engaging in, and have you experienced any issues with those systems?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing quite a bit of PvP and
a lot of issues kind of right now.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but I mean, it's kind of a necessary evil. You gotta test the systems, make sure they work right for when it matters, right? So there's definitely some holes that need to be plugged. Even just the other day, we had an issue where we were doing a caravan, and we were mid-fight, and people got confused. Like some of the other people that showed up to assist got confused, and I think they chose the wrong attacker or defender on the caravans.
Oh God.
And because I think that they were coming to bash the caravans and accidentally like didn't understand that caravans were already dead, and there were new caravans put up to pack away, and they hit the wrong one on the new caravans, thinking that they were the old caravans, and it was just like it split up a bunch of people. It was kind of crazy. There's definitely some holes to plug,
especially when there's like multiple caravans. Like, so you'll have it's very wonky because you can't see any like nameplates really. And there's been a lot of suggestions there too with nameplates with caravans.
There's definitely some quality of life stuff that they need to catch up on, especially for PvP, because PvP I feel like is where things get heated really quickly, as opposed to dungeon bugs or something like that. But they're working on it. So
yeah, I mean, how do you feel with commodities? I know this is pretty a hot topic right now in Reddit forums and stuff like that. There's certain people that feel like commodities don't really do anything to just gold inflate. I'm just curious, like, what you personally think about
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you got to be really careful with game design, is that because once the economy, it's like a snowball effect. So if the economy doesn't have enough sinks, then you're just constantly inflating. And I mean, there's always going to be some amount of inflation. I think that's completely unavoidable. But if you don't have enough sinks, it's a lot easier to add more fountains than it is to, you know, add sinks later, because the damage is already done. I mean, we kind of, going back to New World, we saw that the worst case scenario of that going on, where they thought, oh, we'll just stop the economy and just pause the economy,
right,
and think that, okay, we'll fix this bug later. But they didn't roll back the servers like they should have, because the damage was already done. People had already had like tons and tons of gold, and they were duping and stuff like that, and unfortunately the studio decided to instead of rolling back the servers to erase what had already happened, they just stopped the economy until they fixed the bug. But it didn't matter, because it was, you know, everyone was already abusing it. So
right.
So yeah, I appreciate Intrepid trying to be careful about it and actually testing things before putting it on live. But yeah, economy is definitely something that will make or break a game. You can kill a game real fast when the economy gets out of control.
Yeah, I think honestly, when it comes to running, because there's different versions of caravans, right? You have your mayoral caravans, you got your like actual material caravans, you got your commodity caravans. But I think I'm a little fearful on commodities myself, because I mean, right now, if you put enough, you know, if you put epic, you know, an epic commodity in there, and you go from like Winstead to like the very bottom of the desert node, I mean, that's a good chunk of change right there. That's like what, like 30 gold or something?
Yeah, people are making a lot of gold real fast.
That's what I mean. And my thing with that is, I think the solution, and maybe it's not the solution, but I think a thing to try right now is to relegate commodities to be within the biome. So as an example, if you buy a commodity in the Riverlands, it is a Riverlands commodity, and you can only transfer those commodities to another node in the Riverlands. So if you were to take those commodities and go to the desert, you ain't going to get nothing out of them, because they're not for that biome. You know, that way you can actually, because then you can actually limit. I don't mind faucets if they're regulated, but I don't know how the hell you're going to regulate a commodity. Imagine when we have more biomes, dude. We go from Winstead to the Denskill Mountains, and that's like, what, a 500 gold caravan run that you just get if you make it successfully?
So I think right now, I can see where their intent is. I think because just from a very base level of just understanding the system, at least to my layman's brain, is you know, so yeah, you can take your caravan to one node next door, right?
Right.
Sure, that's very little profit, but it's also very little risk.
Right.
The longer you take that, the more risk you're inheriting.
Right.
So there's potential for you to lose everything. And I think that's Steven's been saying that forever, you know, risk reward, right?
Versus reward.
So you know, I just think that the dials need to be, you know, tuned a little bit, and we'll see. It's also hard to anticipate how things are going to be when we have the full map. And I mean, obviously they have better insight on what to expect when it comes to that sort of thing, because they have experts on that sort of stuff, you know. I mean, to take a look at a game like EVE Online, they hired actual economists to design their economy, and it's still out of control at this point. But you know,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you only get their input, right? Like, they're not going to be there the whole time, like holding your hand throughout the process, right? So the devs kind of have to take it from them, like they kind of, so tell them like, hey, this is what you would need to do to make an efficient economy, and yada yada, and they're like, all right, you got it, good. they
have to iterate a bit,
and they have to iterate a little bit, right? And there could be some good things that they do as devs, and there could be some terrible things they do as devs. I know right now, someone in chat was saying like the 2-hour timers for willows, for copper nodes, for, hey, I got a legendary big bluebell here, come back in 2 hours and you'll have another, and just these 2-hour timers. And you have some people that are doing that for 24 hours, just building up these Legos over and over and over. Now, personally, I am not. It's a testing environment. Like, I'm not going to be so bent out of shape because this is the shit we're supposed to find. Does it suck as a gamer that wants an economy to feel more like an economy? Absolutely. But this is what we're supposed to be finding in this time. You know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to be finding the things that don't feel right. And I think the other thing with those is that the actual dynamic node system, and what I mean by that is the actual like copper nodes, it's not dynamic yet. Everything is very static. And I think once they put in the dynamic gridding, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they actually have something to work within that as well. Because I think there's a cross section there. Could be. I don't know. I'm not a dev, but
yeah. In terms of like sinks and risk, I think there's a lot that hasn't come online yet as well. Because even if we have node sieges coming soon, trademark, right? So at some point, as far as I understand, unless they've changed, unless I just don't remember or they've changed it, but as far as I understood, a node that gets sieged, you have the potential to lose your storage there.
Oh no, yeah. It becomes a wreckage.
I mean, we don't have that sink yet, and that's a pretty massive sink.
Oh my god, that's gonna be devastating.
So I feel like that there's still systems that we don't have access to, and we're playing in the state of a game that's not exactly intended yet. So I think there's a lot of variables that we just haven't experienced yet until they bring it online. So,
well, I mean, to me, this is actually like a good thing. Like I'm really grateful that we are trying to treat this as an actual, like as the actual launch, because this kind of reminds me of what New World went through for its actual launch. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that were like completely broken, not working as intended. And here we are finding those same exact things, right? Finding systems that just shouldn't, like clerics being outside of the caravan group and healing people, no problem.
Yeah,
that's clearly not
so irritating.
Yeah, that's not intended, right? But then there's other things too that's not intended behavior, like waiting at this spawn for 2 hours and getting the same rarity over and over. Clearly that's not intended, right? Like I'm kind of grateful that we're experiencing all this, because I've been an advocate of a wipe for a while, and Stephen bestowed upon me.
They wipe for phase 3. Yeah, I know they say they don't want to, but I hope they do.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm advocating for it, and I have a graveyard golem, right? So it's like I don't want to lose my graveyard golem at all, but at the same time, I think it's you need to do it, especially for vassaling. Like if you're gonna do the vassal system, you need to be able to have that coming from a completely fresh perspective, right? And I just don't know if you can do that the way we currently are.
Yeah, I mean, the nodes especially, but I mean, there's also the whole. I'm glad that Steven has been going and like wiping characters that have been egregious, exploiters and stuff like that. I think that's a good thing, because even in testing, you still want simulated intended gameplay.
Absolutely.
And you don't, if you taint that data too much, then that data is no use to you anymore. So I think it's good that they're doing that, and they're trying to keep that under control right now. But I mean, the same thing goes for nodes. It's like that's why I kind of advocate for a wipe, is because you need that genuine organic data of gamers playing as if it's going to be launch. And if you have too much of this, we're doing it this way because it's just testing, or this exploited, oh great, we found this exploit, but we're not exactly undoing that because the evidence is there or whatever. But they at least they have tools to kind of track that stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, I'm not on the studio, so I don't have the insight to have their understanding. But I mean, they've got their reasons, I'm sure. So we'll see.
I mean, I'm a huge advocate for wiping in phase 3 at some point. I mean, because you have to understand, like, we're probably going to get four major patches before we go into phase 3, right? Like, if we get one major phase a month or one major patch a month, that's gonna be, and that's not even considering the intermediate patches. But I think if by the time we get to phase 3, we could potentially have the artisanship talent trees. We could have dynamic gridding finally in. We could have the fix for
that would be so nice.
caravans and clerics, or just support classes in general for PvP against caravans. We could have tags for caravans, so you'll see like suspect caravan, and then you can actually see what the driver is, something like that. We could have so many things online.
Quality of life.
Yeah, so many quality of life issues. We could have, like I said, even the copper or the rarity issue fixed for gatherable spawns. And if we have all that fixed, I think a wipe is just so necessary. Go into a fresh economy with all that stuff being fixed. How are people going to use materials? How are people going to gather materials now being completely RNG, not it being the way it is right now? You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's just in Intrepid's best interest as well. And believe me, I know a lot of people are also like, oh, I don't want to level again at 25. It's like, well, bro, you signed up to be a tester for this game, man. Like,
this is a test. Get used
like
to it.
It's like, look, I don't, this is why I really haven't really focused too hard on leveling this phase, because it's just like, I'll get there eventually. Like, I'm in no rush. And what's funny is a lot of people that are hit 25 aren't playing. Like, they're taking a break now, you know what I mean? So it's like, what's the point rushing just for me to quit? Like, I don't get that, so it's like, you just got to take your time. And I think too, if it does wipe, take a break then. Like, if you don't want to level again, you come back when the summoner comes out, come back when the naval system comes out, like, we're still going to be testing all of 2025, all of 2026, potentially all of 2027. We have plenty of time. So I don't want people to get into this mindset of don't wipe because I don't want to do this again. You're going to do many things over again. And if you don't want to do it, fine, take a break.
Yeah, I've been telling our membership, just like, especially the ones that haven't truly experienced a test in this state before, like, you got to be careful. You're going to burn out. Like, I get everyone's super excited, but you got to pace yourself. And I mean, in the past, I've tested games that I was super excited for. I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait for this game. I'm going to test like crazy. And then, before I know it, testing's taking longer than I thought. And, I'm kind of getting burnt out. And then by the time launch happens, it's kind of like flying under my radar, because, I just overdid it and got frustrated with the state of the game. And, there's times where you gotta, if you're getting too frustrated, you gotta take a break, or, come back next time they have a new update or something, just pace yourself, take a break if you gotta.
I know someone was saying that, that Intrepid wants to test systems, including the end game systems. A wipe could negate that, and would also lose players. A terrible idea. I disagree. And again, you're going to lose players, testers, regardless. Burnout's going to happen. You're going to get bored. You're going to do everything you wanted to do. It's not fun to you right now. It's fine. Like, take a break. But the thing is that we're still testing endgame systems on the PTR, on the public test realm. We're actually going to be doing a node siege this coming Wednesday. So we're still doing endgame testing. It doesn't have to necessarily be on the test servers. We have PTR to test endgame systems if we need to. So
tester retention is always a challenge for studios. It's very hard to balance testers. totally drawing a blank.
just to keep testers engaged is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, their attention span is what I was trying to think of. That, like, it's very hard to balance a tester's attention span. Like, unless you're getting paid and you're on the studio team, the QA team, to do the testing, it's very difficult for them to retain testers. And when Steven said that they had something like 80% retention, that's wild. Like, I'm blown away, dude. That's insane.
And that's why I can't find big bluebells because everybody's so fucking playing.
But that level of retention is insanity for any studio.
Yeah.
Even AAA studios for games that people are like super hyped about. 80% retention is unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know, Psycho, you were a person that I would talk to because I talk on my stream about this a lot of times about people closed alpha testing MMOs. And you actually have closed alpha tested MMOs in the past, like with like Guild Wars. Was it 1 or 2?
Guild Wars 2, a group of us, actually our entire guild at the time was on like, you know, first name basis with a bunch of the system devs, and we were doing testing before friends and family had access to testing. Damn. Which is kind of wild. Yeah, we had a pretty good in with the studio. We were testing other games too that a couple of games didn't even launch actually. But yeah, the whole testing environment, and that's why I say, like, if you're new to testing, pace yourself, man. Like, it's not going anywhere. It'll be there later.
and you know, I have a buddy of mine who's like a professional tester, and he says it's not as glamorous as you might think it is. It's very frustrating.
It's work.
Yeah, it's
work, man.
It's frustrating, especially if you have a gamer's mindset, because you have to kind of throw that out the window. Like, especially when you like a game. He's like, I try not to like a game at all, because if I like a game, hey, you going to sleep? Oh, okay. I'm on a podcast. All right, love you. I'll see you later. I'll see you tonight. Sorry, my little one. Anyway, sorry, my whole train of thought derailed.
No, it's fine. My wife was just doing the same thing. She was like trying to be all like Solid Snake sneaky over here, getting behind me.
Damn, I completely forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Jesus, I completely forgot what I was talking about. Oh no, professional testers. And he literally has to like get his emotionality out of the thing he's testing, because it just makes it easier. Yeah. Because if I start to like this game, it gets very frustrating, because it's like, oh, this system is just so aggravating to deal with. It's like, you know, and I think that's the thing a lot of people are encountering with like the caravan system with like clerics and stuff like that. But that's the point of testing, to figure these pain points out for the devs to fix.
And all the growing pains with like PvP, that's a perfect example of that, because PvP you get real passionate about, you enjoy it, you know, everyone's having fun until they aren't, right? And that's, you know, that's just one of the necessary evils of testing. It's like you got to iron that stuff out so that it's good when it matters for launch.
Yeah. And it's like, in your experience, by, you know, doing a lot of the testing with like closed alphas and working with devs in the past, how do you feel the pacing Intrepid has been doing with updates and communication and, you know, fixing issues towards the game? Do you feel like it's on par with like a AAA studio, or do you feel like it's a little bit slower, or like, how do you feel in general? I'm just curious, like, your thoughts.
Well, compared to a AAA studio, I almost feel like AAA studios drag their feet more than independent studios, because they just got so much bureaucracy and crap. They got.
Absolutely, I would assume.
You know, that it's all corporatized, right? So, I often have experienced independent studios doing faster paced updates because they're passionate about it and they actually enjoy their work. Where instead of just being like a you know, faceless drone of the corporate machine not getting paid enough to do it. So
yeah.
But I also think that it also depends on the tech that they have to work with as well, because if you consider like Unreal 4, for example, where they were testing, you had to take turns making updates and changes to the builds. But now apparently, I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't.
Yeah, there was a check-in, check-out system. You don't have to do that.
Yeah. And UE5, in theory, it should increase their pace, or allow them to increase their pace, I should say,
right,
because they can do that simultaneously with multiple devs on the same build, and they don't have to take turns like they used to. So,
right.
In theory, they should be working, updates should be a lot faster than they would have been if they were still in Unreal 4. So I think there's a combination of new tech that allows that to happen, and, in combination with their passion that they have for the project.
Yeah. I mean, from my experience,
I think they're moving a lot faster than your typical studio. Dude, for sure.
Compared to Blizzard, oh my God, Intrepid is like Elon Musk, and I don't know, like, in the sense of like technologically advanced, and then Blizzard is like in the fucking Stone Age still. Like it's crazy because like Blizzard's like a multi-billion-dollar studio, dude. Like they made $1 billion when they launched Diablo 4. You know what I'm saying? And as of talking right now, we are still in retail WoW on the first major patch. There's no new raid yet. I think the new raid comes out, I think, next week or something like that. Like, it's crazy. And that was back in October, or like, when did the expansion come out? Like, it's been months, bro, fucking months. And just like, I'm telling you, like, it's pretty wild to see.
There's too many hoops to jump through.
Oh, absolutely. There's way too much shit that's probably like slowing them down. I mean, I think honestly, what I think is really helping Intrepid is their vision. I think Steven being the visionary and having everything just so concise in his head of like how he wants something, it's very easy as a developer to delineate like what he's talking about and just do the work.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like a lot of times I feel like the devs have to kind of put their own, vision into it. You know what I mean? And I think Steven does allow his devs to do that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know my boy Corey's super passionate about Star Wars Galaxies, and a lot of the profession stuff that we're seeing as far as like economy goes is very much from Star Wars Galaxies. Like, if you're a Star Wars Galaxies fan, it's very, I'm not saying it's identical, but it's very similar to how it is.
Well, I think they have a big advantage too, as a, in comparison to like the big corporate companies like Blizzard, because how many bosses and supervisors does a single dev have to go through to get anything approved?
Oh, yeah.
And compared to Intrepid, it's probably one or two in terms of their size. Like,
right.
And Steven is so involved with the dev team that I feel like they probably move a lot faster just because they can have like almost instant approval. I feel like, I mean, obviously Steven's going to trust his devs, that the experts on certain like game systems and stuff like that. But the head honchos there, you can have approval a lot faster than you can in a big corporate entity. So,
yeah. So like, I'm just curious because, like, right now they've been getting a lot of feedback from players as far as like the most frustrating bugs, like give me your top 5 bugs, or give me like your top 5 feedback points of like just overall feedback on what you want. So I'm just going to kind of give you the floor in general. Like, what are some of the bugs that have been frustrating you particularly the most? And then after you give me your bugs, give me like, a couple of like what you would want changed about certain systems, or how you would want them to be improved.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. There's some that are just like obnoxious and irritating to deal with because it's just all the time. Like,
dude,
the
invisible
Bard
mobs.
song. The Bard song is the one thing that Bard song sucks because it's like every time your group wants to like move and go to summon your mount or de-summon your mount, and they're like, turn off the Bard songs. I can't get my mount. Turn it off. It's just like little stuff like that, little quality of life stuff is I think the most frustrating thing. But in terms of like big systematic bugs, it's hard to make a top 5 for me. I'm more of a practical guy over over quality of life, but there's some things that are just like always there that make players or testers irritated. Sometimes it's better just to get those out of the way, just to make it easier and less friction for testers to get to the big bugs. So
I think the like 3 that come off the top of my head is invisible mobs. Bro, the amount of times I'm just there gathering something, I just get and I'm like, what's hitting me? Like there's
literally nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
And I just have to run away. Like, so that's a big bug for me. Another bug is I'm there on my mount and I just start running in place and I can't move. I'm like literally stuck in place. There's no rock. There's nothing.
Edges of the node, dude, or not the node.
It's not even edges of the node or the server workers. Like I've been stuck like that several times. Just like I don't know what that is, but that's definitely really, really annoying. Another annoying thing is, oh my God, I had the third thing. Like me personally, I kind of want my friends list fixed, man, because like I lose.
Oh my gosh,
dude, the friends. I love the fact that there is a friends list, and I know it's super bare bones, but golly, the amount of times that I've like, wait, where's this friend at? Like I added him, and now he's gone. Like I go from like 3 friends to like 7 friends to 10 friends to like 4 friends. It's like, I mean, that's just.
I think one of the big things, one of the big quality of life bugs that is just constantly irritating me is the map, dude. The not being able to see, like having to zoom in super crazy close to see your party members on the map is super obnoxious. I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, I wish that you could just see where your people are zoomed out on the map. It makes things so easy, but. Yeah, you got to zoom in and scroll across the entire map trying to figure out where they are.
Yeah. Oh, apparently another hard-hitting question that Planin was asking is, why is someone as bad as Pocket still allowed in your guild?
I mean, it's kind of a sympathy thing for him. I feel bad. He doesn't really have another home. He's kind of the guild orphan right now. So
he's the redheaded stepchild. It's okay. We still accept him.
No, that's V-Man.
Oh yeah.
And yes, I saw you, V-Man. I see you.
Yeah. I mean,
V-Man is the redheaded stepbrother. Yeah. We love to.
That's me. Literally me. Oh man, I think honestly, like when it comes to overall like changes, the one thing when I was looking through resoundingly was guild features, guild systems.
Oh my gosh.
For like, hey, add a guild storage of some sort, right? Like
guild bank is probably the biggest ask out of the entire community, dude. It's so bad. Like 100%. Especially with how intense the artisan stuff is, like doing all that without a guild bank is the most frustrating thing. And
Absolutely.
just logistically, it's a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah. And I think the talent systems too, they're adding the guild talent trees potentially in this update. I hope they do. Maybe if something goes wrong, maybe they won't add them, but they were on there on the patch notes. So I'm hoping that they add just to see like what kind of functionality is going to be for like what points a 50-man guild can be in compared to like a 300-man guild, like how that's going to work out in general. I know that for me, another quality of life that I want is just to fix my storage. The fact that I have to pick general storage for all 4 of my tabs, like when I should have like a mining storage, a herbing storage, a lumberjacking storage, and have like a 200 stack option or something like that. Like fix that. Like, I think if you were just to fix that, that's a big quality of life just for myself. I can be able to like have more stock in my own storage if that is actually fixed compared to having the guild storage problem, because I think guild storage in general in games is kind of crazy, because the more you would potentially allow players to hoard, that can actually be harmful to server, right? Like, and I think Diablo 4 even talked about that the reason why your storage, your stash storage is as small as it is because like it's going to like cook our servers or whatever if we give you all too much or whatever. And I think honestly, like I think in Intrepid's point, that may be a case where they need to kind of redo their info structure to allow for more storage. But I think they're also going to allow for freeholds to have a storage, like an actual, another personal like storage chest in there. But I think storage in general is just an issue, 100%.
Yeah, it totally is. And I actually, Blight, one of our members, inadvertently found a temporary fix for like when your interface was bugging out and stuff. If you just get on your mount and get off again, it fixes a bunch of those problems, which is crazy. It doesn't make any sense, but apparently it works most of the time. So
yeah,
it's kind of wild.
I think they did patch that out, not to where you shouldn't have those kind of gathering or material invisible stuff, right? I think there's actually an issue right now with certain storage tabs just being, it looks like on our end that they're gone, they're deleted, and all your materials are gone. But I don't think that happened to mine, thank God. But they said, I think one of the devs put out that says on our end, like on the dev's end, those tabs are still there and all of your items are still there. So we don't know where I think they're still kind of iron out that functionality and stuff like that. But is there any other like feedback bits like that you would want to give Intrepid, you know, as far as like what you would want from the game?
I mean, in terms of bugs or like new systems,
no. Just like just feedback as for like not even bugs anymore. Like hey, I would want this change for this like quality of life stuff. Like ways to change certain systems should just be like, in your opinion, better. Like because there's a lot of systems that feel a little janky, a little irky to some people, and they're like wanting it to be changed in a certain way. But coinciding with the philosophy of Ashes, like I'm just curious, like from your end, like what you would want changed.
I mean, I this will probably sound like a cop out, but I kind of just want to let them cook because I obviously our feedback's important and they need to know like the pain points, but at the same time, I'm any studio worth their salt can kind of read the tea leaves and see ahead of time where there's going to be big points of friction and stuff like that. So, I mean, I can't really think of anything specific off the top of my head right now. I'm kind of drawing a blank, but I mean, for the most part, I'm just trying to, trust in the studio and try and be patient for the fixes that are frustrating me.
So before we get off, I did want to ask you a little bit about naval, because I know naval is something very much like up your alley and something that you want. I know you're like a huge Sea of Thieves nerd. Like how in your mind, like if you had your way, how would you design naval for Ashes of Creation? Because clearly I think Sea of Thieves is asking for too much. Like I think that's like a pipe dream.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because on the surface, if you just look at Sea of Thieves and you see it's all cartoony, you don't really expect it to be as simulator heavy as it is. Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy the amount of simulation that's going on in that game. Yeah. But I've always kind of likened or hoped that Ashes Naval would be somewhere in between the sliding scale of Arc Age's level of naval and Sea of Thieves being like the massive expectation that I don't ever expect it to get there. But I would hope that it would be somewhere in between, with like the base level expectation being what Arc Age was. And Arc Age's naval at the time was amazing. It was so much fun. I mean, granted, there are bugs and growing pains with that too, but I would say, especially because Steven was using or has used Arc Age as a big point of inspiration for Ashes, is that I would expect that would be a base level of, Ashes Naval is going to be at least as good as Arc Age, if not better, I would hope. So
that's kind of my position too. I was thinking just like an Arc Age 2.0 of naval. Yeah, right? It's like almost like a revamp, upgraded version of it. I mean, we're gonna have Mariner classes. I think I really do think that the naval for Ashes is going to be pretty involved, because what system in Ashes isn't? Like every system is so fucking involved. It's wild, dude.
Yeah, Mariner classes, I'm excited to see how that goes. I think that'll be really interesting, especially on big ships, because that's when it's really going to matter most. Is you know, you got a galleon or something, and you don't have enough Mariner classes to cover all your points.
Dude, I am still so jealous because you have the fucking ship skin.
Here we go.
That I would die to have. Oh my God.
You guys just won't let it go, man. Everyone hates me because of it.
Dude, it is. Dude, but can you imagine? Because look at the fog in this game. Like, it's nighttime, it's foggy, and you see just this red aura, and then your fucking ship comes. It's like the Black Pearl on steroids. It's wild.
Dude.
Are you gonna bring it up?
Stream, aren't you?
Oh my God, dude! Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second. Oh,
hold on. I think I have it here. Hold on.
It's so.
You guys just hate me so much.
It's so good, dude. I mean, honestly, like, some of the people are going to get upset. The key holder people that weren't around for pre-order packs and saw all of like the amazing shit.
There it is.
Oh, you got it?
Send it to you. Yeah.
Oh God.
I can't wait for that though, dude. Dude, especially seeing like everyone, all the other concept stuff actually getting rendered. It looks insane once it's rendered, so I can't even imagine.
There you go, chat.
So yeah, I'm excited.
That ship is just, it's so good. Because you look at everything in the game. Like, I have a graveyard golem, right? And the graveyard golem is so detailed. It's so like 1-to-1 of what you saw in the artistry compared to what you see in game. And I look at this and I'm like, bro, it's going to look fucking crazy good. Like, I'm
trying to ignore chat right now because they're
no, I mean,
you're trolling me so hard right now,
dude. It's so good. And honestly, like, I just hope that, you know, I hope people can just truly let Intrepid cook, because the other thing I'm just worried about is that the impatience in people. I really don't think Steven's going to buckle to the pressure of the people that have come recently. Like, again, it's not saying that, you know, their opinion isn't valid or whatever, but there's been people like you following since, you know, 2017. There's been people that have been following this project for a long time. The last thing we need to do is to new world this shit up. Right? Release when it's not supposed to be released, have a cascade of issues and problems and growing pains because, you know, people refuse to be in testing another year or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that when Ashes releases, it should be utter perfection, but you know, it's going to have small growing pains, right? Like, what I think of is like damage, scaling, you know, like small shit. In comparison, we don't need auction houses going offline completely because of a fucking crazy ass dupe that got discovered. Like, that shit, we don't need that. You know, we don't need these huge glaring issues coming into the live launch of the game. So, is there anything else you want to discuss before we end the conversation?
Yeah, maybe about the guild. Something that I've been trying to kind of put out there, and I was kind of planning on making an announcement about it, but basically, actually, see here. Sorry, give me 1 sec. Basically, what I was kind of trying to put out there to the, like, other guilds and stuff is to in lawful zones, like, we're going to try and treat you as clients, and you know, unless you're on our shit list or something like that, that's a different story. But you know, if you screw with us, then expect retaliation there. But yeah, as far as like lawless zones, like, just because we're a mercenary guild doesn't mean that we're going to be all buddy all the time. So in a lawless zone, like anything, you should know the risk on a lawless zone. Anything goes, all bets are off at that point. You can expect piracy, but when it comes to like lawful zones, we're going to try and treat most people as potential clients. So we are trying to, we're still having internal discussions on how we're going to stand up our mercenary contracts. So we're kind of soft launching some mercenary contracts unofficially because like I said before, the game state's kind of like not exactly intended, and we got to be kind of a little careful about how we handle things there. But yeah, like we're definitely working towards that, because I know a lot of guilds have been asking us for like caravan protection contracts and a variety of other things. So we're kind of just doing that spur of the moment if it feels right to do, but we haven't dialed in exactly all our parameters and pricing and stuff like that, because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet. So but yeah, like we're still planning on that. So just because we're kind of putting that on hold for the moment doesn't mean that we're not going to be doing that soon, TM. So just keep that in mind. But yeah.
Sounds good, brother. Well, like I said, Suspect is a merc guild. So if anyone is interested in it, if you're guildless, or, like, you can go watch our previous 1v1 where I had the whole officers and Psycho all talking about their guild. So if you want to get to know them a little bit more intimately, you can always watch that video as well. It was a good talk then, and definitely was a good talk now. Psycho, dude, I love you, brother. So I'm always in Discord, so it's always good, like it's like I'm in so many freaking Discords. It's kind of nuts, but I always enjoy talking to my peeps at Suspect.
Well, we always enjoy having you. It's a good time.
Yeah, I know. It's like everybody is like, when are you gonna join Suspect? It's like, bro, I'm in Axiom, dude.
You're already in the guild. What are you talking about?
Yes. But dude, thank you so much, Psycho, for coming on and just having a conversation. Like I said, I really do feel like this next couple of months is going to be really crazy. I think this patch is like tip of the iceberg. We're going to get Rogue potentially the end of February, from what Steven was saying. So I think that's going to coincide with another like major patch. That
PTR in the next week or two, probably.
Yeah. I mean, well, PTR is up now. Like, I mean, I think they took it down, but I mean, we were able to test.
I meant Rogue.
Rogue. Yes. Rogue is probably going to be first week of February, from what they said. But yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. Exciting shit. So guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. And where can people find Suspect?
You could just go to our website, suspect-gaming.com, and that has links to our Discord and our applications, and
that right there.
That's the one. Yep.
Sweet.
And yeah, it has all that stuff on there, and it also has our contract request form that we have toggled off at the moment until we're confident that we can really commit to that. So
yeah, and if you're on Vera, if you're on the Vera server, that's where Suspect is. So if you ever need a merc guild for anything, if there's a certain person picking on you, or a certain guild that's rubbing your feathers, you can always just go to Suspect/gaming and go and request a merc with a mouth. Go get some people taken care of in that way, you know what I'm saying? But thank y'all so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate the support. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. It helps pump out the video to more and more people. Subscribe, of course, for more content. If you're watching on Twitch, hit that heart if you're not following me, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys.